you've already kind of teed me off on Anthem 3, but I do want to transition to the One More Time tracks. And I just want to get some of your thoughts, like if it's a funny memory or just some cool insight into the tracks, if you don't mind. So Anthem 3, you just told us, that's one that basically came together in a day. That's rad. I'm curious, when you have a sequel like this to Anthem 2, which is one of my favorite Blink songs ever, did this song naturally like earn the title of Anthem 3, or was it, hey, we need to make an Anthem 3, that'd be cool to kick off this new Blink era, and then you create it? Like, how did that play out?
When we start songs, I have to name the session something. So usually Tom will have an idea and he'll play it for me on guitar or something. He's like, I want it to be like fast and these are the chords. And I heard it and I was just like, I'm like, all right, cool. So I guess I'll call this one Anthem Part 3 just to be funny. And that just happened.
Oh, shit. Wow.
And I was like, all right, let's kind of build an intro that's kind of similar to Anthem Part 2. And then it kind of just went from there. So I feel like we crammed a lot of that side of Blink into that song. And, there's certain things that I think Travis drum-wise brought to the table that to me clued me into bum bum bum, that was going into the kind of like going into the choruses. He kind of did this bum bum bum, and that one reminded me of everything.
Oh, from Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know the name of that song.
That melody's ringing a bell, but it's is it Please Don't Remind Me, Put My Back Behind Me?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So the second he put that drum fill in, I was like, oh, that reminded me of that. And all over the record, I thought it would be really cool to like have like little, Easter eggs that kind of called back to a specific song in the career. If I heard something melodically, I'm like, oh, that's, yeah. Usually with Tom, I'd be like, you've already done that. You've already had that melody in a song. It's this song. And I'd have to kind of be that. We got to write something different, because you already did that. I think with this album, I was a little bit more, I felt better about little things like that reminded me of something melodically from a past Blink song or something that felt like it'd be on a past record.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I mean, Anthem Part 3, I was like, if you're going to name a song, it's got to live up to it. And I think it's one of those things where people saw it and they're like immediately drawn, like, oh shit.
Dude, when I saw it and I saw it as the opener, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they got some balls on this. Like this is gonna be tough to live up to Anthem 2 for sure. And when I listened to it, dude, like I was fucking blown away. And then I think the song is over and then it just fucking crushes that outro. And I'm like, oh my God, let's go.
Yeah.
Killer song, dude, for sure. Number 2, so Dance With Me. This was one of the later releases. This is one that you had co-produced. Man, I'll tell you, the first time I heard this chorus, I was like, this is huge. Like I can envision like soccer stadiums belting these olays out when someone scores a goal. I'm curious, do you have any like fun insight you could share on how this track came together?
Yeah, that was actually one of the second ideas that we started when Tom started kind of putting ideas together. And it started off as like this, I had an intro And I was like, are we doing intros? Like, is that kind of,
Can we do those in Blink?
yeah, I'm like, I was very cognizant of kind of being the bearer of bad news all the time and kind of keeping us on task of what this record should be. And it goes back to what I was saying about neighborhoods and dogs eating dogs and all that stuff, is that Blink should be Blink, Angels should be Angels. You know, it's like we're gonna have the guitar sounds that there's got to be a clear distinction between Blink and Angels. Same thing with synths. I mean, there's been synths all over Blink stuff since Enema, really. Actually, there were organs and stuff in Dude Ranch and whatnot, but um, but let's not make any of those things a focal point. If we can't do it with a guitar, or we need to fill up space to kind of create atmosphere or something, then cool. But to sit there and like make something be heavily reliant on synths or big intros, like let's just try to stay away from that. Like let's keep it simple and whatnot. And that goes for when I say my intentions or what I thought it should be, that's just me talking to me and to Tom. Like other than Blink Wave, I was not really involved in the sessions like with all three of them. So it was never me calling any sort of like shots and saying, you know, I'd have opinions and I'd tell Tom and maybe he'd, you know, go and mention it like, oh, Aaron had this idea, blah, blah, blah. But still, as an engineer, I think you kind of have to have your thinking cap on and know that, you know, because at the end of the day, the sounds that I come up with are going to be on the record. So it's got to sound like Blink. And I think that's just drilling that in on our side of things, I think helped stay on task and have this still be a Blink record and have it be completely different than Angels.
Yeah. And you're unique in that you created on the Angels side, you know, that sound. So you know exactly what that is. And you know exactly how to not be that. So that's rad.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's a kind of a good thing. And it's also kind of a good thing on my end because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be part of a Blink album that sounded like Blink-182. You know, like this is kind of like if you could have a fan make your record, what would it sound like? And I kind of felt like this is a cool opportunity to do that. You know,
man.
Going from like what did I love about Blink-182? How do I communicate that to Tom or make it known to Travis and Mark? Like, I think this is quintessential Blink-182. And how do we take that and make it still refreshing for 2023?
Dude, that fucking gave me goosebumps because I'm thinking about you speaking to your younger self as a kid at Soma watching Blink, probably 94, 95, 96, that range. Dude, what would that kid say looking at you now? Like, dude, you fucking co-produced, co-wrote, like all over this new Blink-182 #1 album. It's crazy, dude.
It's absolutely insane. And it was a completely different feeling than like all the Angel stuff, just because it was Blink is its own beast. It's its own world. I think Blink-182 is bigger than Mark, Tom, and Travis.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's taken on a whole thing.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
even Tom's like still shocked.
Dude, like I was stoked Tom's coming back, of course, and I had pretty high expectations, and they've even fucking blown me away. Dude, this album like blew me away, and then even more so like going out on tour and seeing fucking like sold out stadiums, dude. Like here I am with my little Blink podcast for the past 4 or 5 years, like praising Blink. So when I walk out and there's a stadium full of everybody just going fucking nuts, I'm like, dude, this is huge. Like this is big.
You're like, why aren't there more people listening to my podcast? Like, where are you guys?
Like, where were you guys the past few years?
Yeah, come on, guys, get with it. Start passing out flyers. Did you?
No.
That would have been
I
funny.
had stickers at one point, but I don't want to get sued.
Nah.
Track number 3, so Fell in Love, and when I saw there were 17 tracks, my take was this is gonna be versatile. And Blink, even if you don't categorize them, if you had to, it's gonna be pop punk. I figured there's gonna be stuff that will probably sway more towards pop. Then of course there's probably gonna be stuff that sways more towards punk. This one clearly sways more on the pop side of things. I'm curious because I think some of the production at the very beginning maybe caught some of the fan base slightly off guard. People complaining online. Imagine that. Any fun facts or tips about this? Because I think it's catchy as fuck and dig it.
There's always been that aspect of the Cure ingrained into Blink. So I think that song started up over at Travis's and was already kind of done-ish by the time I got it, and it was time for Tom to lay down vocals and whatnot. And yeah, as far as that one goes, on my side of things, that one was more tracking guitars, vocals, and turn it in.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. You talked about Terrified a little bit earlier, and this is one of the questions I had. You actually already answered it, but a couple years ago, Travis and Tom kind of start teasing that there's an unreleased Boxcar Racer song, and everybody starts fucking flipping out, as you know.
Yeah.
I was curious, was this truly an old BCR demo or whatever that was sitting? Was it truly, born 3 or 4 years ago? It sounds like it was 3 or 4 years ago. Is that accurate?
It was truly born in 2018. In fact, I might have the hard drive
with the inception date.
I actually don't have it on this computer.
That's okay.
Actually, I have it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, that one has I've seen people ask me if it was a song that they played one time live or that's on YouTube, and I'm like, no, that song was written. I was there. I was there. And honestly, I was shocked that it was brought up to be on the record. But I think it was a cool addition to the record. I think it was definitely later in the album making process. The only thing that was written differently was the bridge. The bridge was new. That was done this year.
I love that bridge, dude. It goes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, when people beg for BCR or Plus 44, part of me as a fan is like, it's almost unfair to ask them to recapture the sound of those albums. To me, BCR and Plus 44 are such unique timestamps of the band and where they were as a band or not as a band at that time. So when I had heard that there was a new BCR song, eventually, Travis tweets out like, this is going to be a Blink song, something, and that's rad. But I was kind of almost worried, like, will this sound like BCR? How will it sound? And dude, it takes about 2 seconds into that intro riff, and it's like, I'll be damned, that's a Boxcar Racer sounding song for sure. And I
Yeah.
think it spoke volumes, I think, for the band to have Mark come in and be on that. And Mark said that recently. He said, the old me, my ego probably wouldn't have taken it that well. This album was all about like getting over that petty shit and let's just make some music. So did you feel that that was kind of important for the band to put that on the album?
It all goes back to, well, I guess this is growing up. Everybody's
Yeah.
grown up. I mean, these guys are dads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be raising children, running companies, producing records, like, they're not just doing Blink. I mean, there's definitely leadership skills that you will have acquired through your years. And I think that you have to grow. And I think a lot of that is dropping ego.
Yeah.
And if the song was garbage, then it probably wouldn't have made it. But it probably ticked off boxes that I think needed to be on this record. And was one of those things where it called back to that sound, but it still wasn't a rip of it. And it could have been on that Boxcar record.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, and then that industrial, it sounds like an industrial bridge, like do 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 do. And I love there's like a little pew pew. I love
Yeah.
whatever makes that pew pew sound. I love it.
That was Travis. That was I actually, when I got that bridge, I did not like it.
Really?
Yeah, I was just kind of like, it just doesn't sound like Boxcar to me. But that's me,
Yeah.
and then you take 2 months away from it and it comes on and you're like,
Yeah.
no, that was the right move. That's a really cool moment.
Yeah. Totally. So one more time, I mean, man, this one came out and I don't know if there was a dry eye in the whole Blink fan base. I mean, dude, I fucking like cried on a podcast talking about that, dude. It hit me hard. Title track to the album, what can you say about this? It's basically a love letter, like from the band to the band.
Yeah. It's I mean, I saw the video when everybody else saw the video.
Mm.
And I saw the video and was like, that was amazing.
Dude, that the ending where it goes through like flashbacks of their lives, that's what fucked me up so hard, man, because like you said earlier, the Blink fan base, dude, like we've grown up with them. So you see yourself 15, 20 years ago and it just like made me reflect and like fucked me up for a minute. It was crazy.
Yeah, I thought that song was pretty much the forward to this album.
Mm.
It's end of the day, that band is about three friends. And as long as that's the mantra, I think that they could continue and do great things.
Yeah.
And I think now having it's not just something, we got together and this is what we decided, but now it's memorialized. It's almost like a declaration of independence in a way. It's like memorialized in this body of work where anything happens down the line, somebody can come back and be like, hold on guys, let me play something for you really quick. And it's like,
you named the album this.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and it was such a cool, I think it's a cool moment, a really cool moment on the record, and just said what needed to be said in plain English, and there's no misgivings of, well, I think that they meant this. It's like, no, it's straight, like,
Yeah.
here we go.
I'm curious
So I
because
thought that was super cool.
when I was listening to it, there was part of me that was thinking this is going to go heavy at the end. I don't know why. I was just thinking it was like plus 44, no it isn't, or like I was thinking like a Letters to God Boxcar Racer, like this is going to get heavy. Travis said recently there were versions I think that had like at least some sort of extended outro or whatever. Did you hear that or think it should go that route, or how did you feel about that?
My, you know, when I had heard it, I go, I think the song is super cool. I think we should do X, Y, and Z to it and have like this kind of a vibe. I was almost thinking like almost like a Peter Gabriel In Your Eyes kind of a vibe, where it was still this ballad, but it moved.
Yeah.
And Travis had mentioned Time of Your Life by Green Day.
Mm.
And it didn't quite end up there. I think it ended up more as like a little bit more in the world of I Miss You.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty broken down. And it was a song that I think in the end, it could have gone in any direction. But I think the less is more approach um, was the right call.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I listen to it now, I'm like, it definitely doesn't need it. Maybe like in a live performance, I'm thinking like some sort of extended outro maybe read on it. But you know, who am I to say so?
No, I mean, weirder things have been done.
Yeah. More Than You Know, this is one that dropped and just fucking blew me away. Like this is one, it was that banger that I was just like, holy shit, this is these three together, 2023, like bringing the heat, so fresh, so progressive, but still so Blink. This is one that you co-produced. You know, what can you tell us about this one?
This one is probably high up for me on the record in terms of I like that song a lot. I thought that it harkened back to self-titled,
Yeah.
but I also thought that it was also the new Blink as well. Like it was refreshing. It was different, but it still had that energy. And that one changed a bunch, especially the intro. I had a bunch of different intros. And then it just kind of landed on the piano intro.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think it's a great song. It shows that difference between Mark and Tom. You know, it has this like Mark's verses are very poetic, and then all of a sudden Tom comes in with this pre-chorus that's just like
Yeah.
everything's just going crazy and it's just chaotic, and then it goes into this like focal point where it's Travis just pounding through, beating through, yeah, beating through the chorus, and then it takes that little journey to this bridge that I think harkens back to violence in a way. Um, and I thought it was cool. I think it had so many aspects of Blink in it.
Yeah.
Period.
Totally.
But it felt new, and it doesn't sound like any other Blink song per se.
Yeah. And that's something that is a theme throughout this album. Like, dude, the best way I've been able to put it on my previous podcast is like it's Blink in 2023, and it's just it's
Hmm.
so fresh, but it's so Blink. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys did an incredible job. Turn This Off. It seems like if you get these three together, there's going to be some sort of humor or joke song on there. Is that one that was like we need a joke song on here?
Yeah, I think that was kind of like towards the end. and we start, you're starting to see what is shaping up to be the record. And yeah, that was just quick, and it's cool.
Yeah. When we were young, this is the one that, so earlier when we were talking about the demo's odds and ends, I mentioned that I can kind of hear that direction on One More Time. When I first heard this, I was thinking, this is where Tom was telling us he was going with Blink in 2015-ish. Am I crazy, or is there some similarities there?
I'd have to go listen to that record and go through it just to be reminded what was on there.
Yeah.
But that song was actually one of the last songs. That was the last song Tom wrote for this record.
Oh, wow.
And it had a different chorus chord wise, and then that ended up getting changed because I think Travis wanted it to have more. It was a little bit more futuristic, maybe, I would say. If I had to, it was just hanging on like one chord throughout the whole chorus, and then kind of had the do no 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 no.
Yeah.
And that one changed, and I think it brought it into it being more of a Blink track. But yeah, I love that song. I think it's super cool. It was also one of those songs that was needed for the record. Oddly, it reminds me of like kind of like that the moments on the record that kind of feel like Wendy Clear, like on Enema.
Yeah.
Or Roller Coaster in a weird way. Not Roller Coaster. I don't know. It oddly reminds me of maybe a song that would have been more Mark reminiscent.
Oh,
and that
interesting.
it kind of came from a Tom point of view. But yeah, that was definitely a fun one.
Edging makes the album. Was that ever in question? Edging had been out for a year. Incredible live, like huge song, first song released with these three back together.
The album was never supposed to be turned in as late as it was.
Oh, well, there you have it.
So, in what people thought, they're like, oh, well, we'll make the announcement, put out a song, put the tour on sale. We'll finish the album by December, January, have a single by end of January or something. And March starts South America, right? So in a perfect world, it all made sense. But yeah, I think Edging was always going to be on the record. And it's just funny because that was a song that when the label came to listen to the music, that song wasn't even really like worked on that much.
Oh, wow.
It was like a very like rough demo that Mark and Tom did up there. And it's kind of sounded a little bit more like Soft Cell in a weird way. Like
was this
Painted Love.
Was this one of the first songs written though? Like, what was the first song written for this album?
I think there were maybe 2 Sacrificial Lambs that never made it.
Okay.
But More Than You Know and Turpentine, whatever.
Yeah.
Were and Dance With Me were kind of like in the first batch of songs. And then started moving on to other songs heading into like April, May, June. And Edging was kind of written towards probably, I would say maybe June
Interesting.
So it wasn't even like really worked on, and I guess president of the label heard that song and he's like, "This is the song, finish it." And then
Damn.
it was just kind of like, okay, like let's get to work.
Yeah. And able to write it for basically a year. So the right call.
Yeah, I mean,
For
but like I
sure.
said, it wasn't ever meant to be written for that long.
That's crazy. You Don't Know What You've Got. This is one that Mark's lyrics, I mean, just crush you. I felt that this was kind of that somber Mark song that I'd been waiting for and just needed. How did you feel about this one coming together?
I thought it was great. I thought it was a good song. I thought it drew from a lot of places in the Blink world, and obviously Mark's lyrics took it to a next level. And this one was one of those songs that it was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna do the chorus. I mean, I'm saying it's Tom saying like, I got to sing the chorus and gotta track the guitars, but it wasn't really a writing adventure on our end. It was more kind of like that one was written up there with the three of them, and it was kind of done
Mm,
once it was like written. So it was just a matter of recapturing. But I liked it a lot. I thought it was one of those songs where you hear it and you say, "Oh yeah, this could definitely be on self-titled or Take Off Your Pants and Jacket,"
yeah.
even though it kind of has that reminiscent Adam song vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I felt about it. Blink Wave, you hit on earlier. I don't think we have to jump back into that one. Bad News. This one was just like a fun, like of all the Take Off Your Pants and Jacket sounding vibes that I could ever hope for, I feel like they're captured in this one.
Yeah, it was a song that was sent down, and Tom's like, "Whoa, this is really fast." I'm like, it's probably gonna take me a few times to get these guitar parts done at this tempo because it's like I haven't played anything this fast in so long. I was like, but yeah, I thought it was another great addition to the record that felt like it played a role that it's like each one of these songs has like a placeholder that I feel there are songs on Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and Enema of the State and even self-titled. You could say like, oh, this song is definitely that song, that song. What this song, that song, and that song did on those three records, that's what this song is.
Mm,
And I don't know that that was a I don't think that they meant to do that.
mm.
I don't think it was like, where's our dysentery Gary?
Right, right.
Where's our this song? But it's one of those things that just kind of fell into place so nicely. But yeah,
Kurt,
I loved that it was Blink, but it had a lot of like these. It called back to a lot of like the Fat Records Epitaph sound.
yeah, and even on Tom's like, dude, his vocal delivery, and when Tom rejoins Blink, you don't know necessarily what Tom you're going to get. Are you going to get kind of Angels and Airwaves sounding singing Tom? And when he comes back like on Dance with Me, dude, like in the verses, it's nasally high pitched like punk Tom, and he's spitting, dude, like he's flowing. I mean, I was just shocked by how good and fresh all of this stuff sounds.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just kind of knowing what each song needed.
Mm,
What, and I think in the past, and this probably, like I said, goes back to the whole neighborhoods dog eating dog situation. I think in the past, Tom maybe looked at things and said, "Well, I want it to be a Blink song, but I also want it to be like cool and different and more of a representation of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I think that was completely dropped on this record, and just kind of like knowing exactly what the song needed and what would consciously make these songs a Blink-182 song as opposed to an Angel song or a Plus 44 song, or anything that Travis has been working on as of late outside of Blink. It was more about creating with Blink in mind and wanting to make it Blink-182 as opposed to making Blink-182 something else.
We get to Hurt, and call me crazy, dude, but I think I get like some Of Nightmares vibes on this. Like, dude, I love this little interlude. Like, it's sick. Was that ever a full song? Like, do you get Angels vibes on this? To me, this seems one where it's like, here you go, Tom, have fun with this one.
That was a song that we sent in as an idea, like, hey, check out this idea. And I was like, it's a little too like Angels World for me. And I didn't even know it was going to be on the record until I heard it on the record. Like, I was like, Hurt, what song is Hurt? And I put it on, like, oh, that's Damaged Eyes.
Oh, was that the working title or whatever?
That was the working title.
Wow.
And I honestly think Travis just ended up playing drums over what we had sent and was like, all right, this one's done.
Damn.
And it's just going to be this. Because it's kind of like half a song.
Yeah. It's short and to the point, but it also, like, it's a perfect part in the sequencing in the album to kind of break it up, switch moods a little bit. And then you roll into Turpentine, dude, which fucking blew me out of this world. You said this was one of the first songs kind of written for this album. Dude, this song is like so unconventional, but it's just killer, so fresh. Like, I feel like this is all the good experience of all these dudes like combined into one on a fresh Blink song.
Yes. So this is one of those first songs, and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about in terms of me bringing ideas to the table and changing stuff. And when I got the song, it kind of felt like the intro, the verse, and the chorus, with the exception of the post-chorus, they all sounded very similar. And it was very hard to make the distinctions between the parts. It just kind of felt like everything was down tempo, and the chords were, I think, the same in the intro as the verse and the chorus. It just kind of different melodies, but it was just kind of this down tempo thing. And so that's kind of one of those things where I brought up, and I'm just having a hard time cluing into what part's what part. And I think if we changed some of the chords, added these breaks, this one would be a different song. And I think it'd benefit from that. And that's one of those things where Mark's like, I think when they heard it, Mark's first comment to Tom was like, why'd you change the chords? And it was kind of like, well, we can go back to whatever we had, but kind of let Aaron go on this. And I think that was one of the first times where it's like, okay, I felt a little bit validated, because I think as people heard it, they understood where it was coming from, and it worked out to end up being what it was.
Dude, this song, like, I think it just blew the fan base away. Like, dude, it's so fucking good and nothing like anyone has ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Killer, dude.
I always thought it was like so weird going from like such a emotive um verse and chorus and then going into like a Blink live album. Like it was just
Yeah.
so like, slide your mom on top of me, stick your dick in Ovaltine. I was like, okay.
It
I was
works.
like, I was like, hey, player's gonna play.
Yep.
It's like, okay, it
The
works.
uh the next one, Fuckface. This is one that Travis said basically was like a fast punk song that he was working on with Tim Armstrong. Is this one that kind of gets sent to you and Tom to track some vocals with and be done with?
That was the last thing Tom tracked.
Mm,
It was just like,
interesting.
and I'm just like, wait, so what are we doing? He's like, I just got to track vocals, and I'm like, okay, but the song's like 30 seconds. Like, what are you gonna sing? It's like, I'm just gonna sing "Shut Up," and I'm just like, okay. So boom, popped them in.
Uh,
3 minutes later, it's like, all right, are we ordering lunch? Like,
Album's
we're done.
done.
Yep.
Love it. Other side. So this one is clearly about Mark's bass tech, Robert, who
Yeah.
passed away. When I had seen the lyrics to this song initially, I was worried that this would kind of be too heavy for me. I thought I'd be breaking down crying listening to this. And when I listened to it, I actually found it incredibly like uplifting and positive and had a good vibe to it of where it's like, yo, I'll see you on the other side. This is how shit happens sometimes. I'm curious from your perspective, how did this song play out on your side of things?
It was a when I heard it, it seemed like a quintessential Mark song.
Yeah.
Like it there's no fat on it. It's just you just glide through that song. And obviously the lyrics you're not going to mess with cuz they're so heartfelt and it's about a relationship. And for me that was like a fan moment and it was like, all right,
Mm,
what should the Tom contribution be on this?
yeah.
And it it was just kind of trying to keep things as like take off your pants and Enema of the State for me. Kind of have that vibe like, all right, let's just play guitar. Like honor what was written. And yeah.
For the gearheads listening, what was most of this stuff tracked with from a guitar perspective?
Guitar perspective, it was it started off with Tom's usual selection of guitars, which were his Gibsons. Mostly for the Gibsons, mostly for like rhythm guitars. He has this Explorer that we use as kind of like the second guitar for rhythms.
Mm.
And don't tell him this, but he bought that Explorer because Jerry would always do it like use an Explorer for the second rhythm guitar.
Interesting.
And he always harkened back to Stay Together for the Kids. But he went and bought like this Explorer that came out, I want to say like, I don't know when it came out, but it was called like the Gothic series. And it's matte black and it has like nothing to do with probably what Jerry would have had as an Explorer. But it's one of those like funny things. We call it the het for James Hetfield. Let's get the head out.
That's
Um,
funny.
so it was usually like one of his Gibsons and then either an SG or that one. But then in November we got the first prototype of his new Starcaster,
Yeah.
and that thing sounded awesome. We were just
Mm.
like, Tom was like, I cannot believe how easy it is to play this guitar.
With that Strat neck, but still the big body he's used to.
Yeah, and he fell in love with that guitar. And I've never seen Tom get excited about musical gear.
Yeah.
Ever.
He's not a
Ever.
gearhead, you know, from what I've heard. Like Mark is, Tom's not.
Tom is not a gearhead, but he goes and buys gear because it looks cool. Or it looks inspiring to him, like, or because he heard somebody had this, you know. But it's never been like, oh, I picked up this guitar and it was like I had to have it. It was always like, yeah, I went to Chicago Music while we were on tour and that amp looked cool. That pedal looks super gnarly. I don't even know what it does, but it's cool.
I love it.
And that guitar looks cool too. And that's kind of what he would go by. Or it'd be stuff that he used in the studio with Jerry, you know, and Jerry recommended this guitar with this pickup or blah blah blah. So this is the first time like he had picked up something and like I genuinely saw like an excitement,
Oh, that's rad.
and he would just love it, like, and he still picks it up and is like excited about it. And then he started drawing on them and I'm just like but then I'm just like, you know what, it's exactly what it needs to be. And but yeah, that Starcaster was something that I had been dreaming up. And same thing with Jeff Pereira, like me and him would be like, oh man, we got to get him into the Starcasters. And so I actually had started talking to Fender about the the um the Tom Strat reissuing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during COVID, and they were like, we don't care that Tom doesn't play Fender anymore, you know, but it would be so cool to put this out. And I'm like, I agree with you. And I think Tom would be like at this point in his career, like down. So it's kind of started having those conversations at the beginning, and then COVID hit. All the factories kind of like went down, and that conversation kind of got tabled until we started working on the new record and the world was kind of coming back together. And I talked to Michael Schultz over at Fender. I'm like, hear me out. Would you guys send a Starcaster to Tom? I think I can sell him on it. And he's like, dude, we don't make the Starcaster anymore. In fact, we don't even have a way of making it because they didn't have the tooling or whatever. And I think the only tooling that they had was like for the Squire, and those were like made in Korea or Indonesia, and I don't even know. And I'm like, I think we can get Tom back to Fender if we can get him this guitar. And we started going down that road, and he's like, listen, we can make some custom shop, but in order for it to be like made like properly factory wise, I think it's gonna have to be, I don't know that we'd be able to do it. And I'm like, well, humor me.
Yeah,
Can you just
try.
can you just make 4? He's like, okay, well, what do you want? I'm like, just take the Strat neck and put the Starcaster body on there. We'll figure out a pickup and just keep the one knob. And then whatever else the custom shop thinks it needs in terms of what's going to make it stay in tune and sound awesome, like I'm all ears. And Tom wanted the Dirty Fingers pickup in there, which was in his 333s at Gibson. But then we realized, and I didn't know this, that it was an actual Gibson pickup.
They're not going to pop that in.
So that wasn't going to work. And so I had a conversation with Alex Press, who's at the custom shop at Fender, and we started talking about pickups. And he's like, I think it should be either a JB or a Duncan custom. And then I heard I already knew about the JBs because I had JBs in some of my guitars. And then I heard the SH5, which is a Duncan custom, and I was like, I think Tom would love this, because something that Tom likes is that he likes a high output pickup to cover up his sloppy guitar playing. But he also likes the note to be heard. And I felt like the Duncan custom had that. And so I was like, if it's good enough for Eddie Van Halen, it's good enough for Tom, right?
And Tom gets it. He loves it. And he's like, all it needs is just a couple penises drawn on it, and we're in good shape.
That was literally it. Like, he plugged it in, and it was just like, wow, done. We don't even have to like try to make this fit. It just like fit perfectly. And after that, it's like, that was our primary guitar for the rest of the record.
Wow. That's rad, dude. Yeah, I've loved seeing all of his new Starcasters out on stage. Like,
yeah,
this whole era, man. Like, dude, it's just been killer. The last song on the album, and dude, I'm taking up a ton of your time, so I appreciate you hanging out with me. Childhood. To me, of all the songs on the album, like, this is the closer. Like, when this song was made, is it just obvious, like, we're closing the album with this?
I think Travis had that thought, and I didn't know till later that was his thought. This was a song that started up there in LA, and when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is very different.
Yeah.
Look, there's even minor chords in here. Interesting. This is Aaron Town. And yeah, I think there were guitar parts, because Tom was just kind of like, I really don't know what to do here. I don't know what's going to make this more blank. I'm just like, I don't know, why don't you try this? Try that. So there's like little riffs here and there that I actually got to writing that are in there. But it was such a cool way to end the record, and it fit the album perfectly, because, the way Zane Lowe put it, for this record, he felt like it was like Enema of the State grew up. And I think that was such a great way to look back at your youth. And I think Blink's always done that. But I think Blink's always done that in a way that it's been nostalgic, and they kind of put themselves in the shoes of where they were at that moment. But I think that lyrically, I think this song was more them speaking now about their youth.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
being older. And I thought that that's always been a mark of bands that have been around for a long time and continue to be relevant. I think that that's something that they do. It's, we can't necessarily be what we were, but if you take on the perspective of where you are right now, you can look back, you can look to the present, and you can look forward. That voice, I think, is what could propel you for longevity.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I think that they came to this album with that mindset. they weren't trying to be what they were, and the things that they were speaking of had to do with present day, or from the perspective of them looking back at the past, but having the mindset of today's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a perfect way to close out the album, dude. I mean, front to back, man, like I've said, this album just fucking blew me away, man. So, dude, congrats to you, your team, your involvement. Like, dude, thank you on behalf of the fan base, man, for like being part of such an incredible album and albums, you know, going into Angels and stuff. Like, these albums mean a lot to us, and I hope you guys feel that and are proud of that.
Oh, I definitely feel it, because when anything goes wrong, first person to get DMs is this guy.